Brand New Day ends on a genuinely earned note. Peter spent the whole movie isolated, cut off from MJ and Ned by a memory spell he can't undo, slowly losing the line between himself and Spider-Man. By the final scene, he's chosen to close that gap instead of hiding from it. It's quiet, it's human, and then the credits roll, and Marvel throws you into deep space. The scene itself is simple. Ned's homemade Spidey tracker app, the one he's been using all movie to triangulate sightings of Spider-Man around the city, gets a new ping, except this one doesn't zoom into a neighborhood. It pulls back, past the city, past the planet, past the moon, and there, floating in the middle of nothing, is the little Spidey icon. No explanation, no text, credits end. Taken on its own, that's just a cool visual, but put it next to everything else Marvel has already locked into place, and it stops looking random. And it's worth sitting with how deliberate that choice is. Marvel has used a lot of different post-credits formats over the years. A joke, a cameo, a new character showing up to recruit someone, a villain teased in silhouette. This one has none of that. No actor got paid to show up. No new character got introduced. The only thing on screen is a piece of technology Ned built himself, quietly doing its job and stumbling onto something nobody in the movie was looking for. That's not a small creative choice. Marvel wanted the last thing you feel walking out of this movie to be unease, not excitement. That's a very specific kind of tease, and it's usually reserved for something they've been planning for years, not something they came up with last minute. Here's what we know for certain. Robert Downey Jr. is confirmed as Dr. Doom for Avengers Doomsday, releasing before the next Spider-Man film. Sadie Sink is confirmed as Jean Grey, and Brand New Day just spent an entire movie establishing her as Peter's closest bond in the current MCU, arguably closer than MJ, who still doesn't remember him, and Sink is already attached to appear in the film after Doomsday. That film is called Secret Wars. That's not a coincidence. That's a setup. Think about how unusual this is for Spider-Man specifically. Out of every hero in the MCU, Spider-Man has always been the one Marvel keeps deliberately small. No space travel unless he's dragged into it by someone else. No cosmic stakes unless the Avengers need an extra body. His movies are built around school, rent, relationships, the stuff that makes him relatable instead of untouchable. Brand New Day doubled down on that harder than any Spider-Man film before it. The entire plot is about Peter trying to hold onto a normal life he can't get back. So the decision to end that exact movie by yanking his location marker out into deep space isn't just a plot tease, it's a tonal statement. Marvel is telling you the era of small, grounded Spider-Man stories is about to end, whether Peter's ready for that or not. So what actually is Secret Wars? Marvel's used that title twice, and it's worth knowing both because the movie is very obviously building toward the second one. The original Secret Wars ran in 1984. The premise is almost quaint by today's standards. A godlike being called the Beyonder rips a chunk of Earth's heroes and villains out of their lives and drops them on a stitched-together planet called Battleworld, just to watch them fight. It's the story that gave Spider-Man his black suit, the one that later became Venom. Fun, formative, foundational to a lot of what Marvel is today, but it's not what this MCU stinger is pointing at. The 2015 version is a different animal entirely, and this is the one that matters here. By 2015, writer Jonathan Hickman had spent years building toward a slow-motion apocalypse across 2 Avengers titles. The core idea was terrifying in its simplicity. The multiverse is dying. Parallel Earths are drifting into contact with each other, and whenever 2 universes touch, both of them get destroyed. Not damaged, erased. Reality itself was running out of room. Heroes tried everything to stop it. They failed. One by one, entire universes blinked out of existence, and nobody could do a thing about it. Eventually, there was exactly one universe left, and it was moments from colliding with the literal edge of nothing. And that's where Dr. Doom comes in. Doom, alongside a handful of Earth's smartest and most desperate minds, does the unthinkable. As the last universe collapses, he manages to grab fragments of every reality that had already been destroyed and fuse them together into a single patchwork world. He saves pieces of everything, but at the cost of becoming its god. Doom doesn't just survive the end of everything, he rules what's left of it. That world is the new Battleworld. It's not one planet, it's dozens of dead realities stitched into regions, each one still carrying its own rules, its own history, its own versions of familiar heroes who have no idea their home universe doesn't exist anymore. In the comic, these regions are called baronies, and each one is ruled by a version of a hero or villain Doom personally chose and installed as a loyal governor. Some of Marvel's most famous characters spend the entire story unaware they're living inside a dead reality that Doom rebuilt out of pity or out of control, depending on how you read him. One region is a zombie-infested wasteland. Another is a peaceful utopia that turns out to be hiding a horrifying secret about how it stays peaceful. It's not one battlefield. It's an entire patchwork civilization built on top of a mass grave of realities, and almost nobody living in it knows that. Doom sits at the center of it all, controlling reality itself, worshipped as a literal god emperor, and for a long time, nobody in the story even realizes he's the one who did this. It's one of the only stories in Marvel history where Dr. Doom isn't the villain who loses. He wins. He becomes God. That alone should tell you how different this adaptation is going to feel from anything the MCU has done with him before. That's also exactly why casting Robert Downey Jr. as Doom was such a strange, bold choice in the first place. This isn't a role built around a new actor establishing menace from scratch. It's built around an actor the entire audience already trusts, already loves, already associates with sacrifice and heroism from over a decade of Iron Man. Marvel is banking on that history, working against you. The more you like Doom on screen, the harder it hits when you realize what he actually did to hold this new reality together, and how far he's willing to go to keep it that way. Now here's why that matters for Spider-Man specifically. Because the version of Battleworld from the comic wasn't just filled with random heroes, it was filled with alternate versions of them, different timelines, different choices, different Peter Parkers. The comic used the collapsing multiverse as an excuse to put multiple versions of the same characters in the same story at the same time, forced to reckon with versions of themselves that made different decisions. Sound familiar? That's basically what No Way Home already did on a smaller scale, bringing in Tobey Maguire and Andrew Garfield's Spider-Man from other realities. Secret Wars is that idea taken to its absolute maximum, applied to the entire Marvel multiverse at once, not just Spider-Man's corner of it. And Spider-Man specifically has history here that most casual fans forget. In the 2015 comic, one of the most talked about threads follows a Peter Parker from a different reality entirely. An older, more hardened version who lost people the mainstream Peter never did, forced to survive inside Doom's patchwork world for years before the main story even begins. He's not comic relief, he's proof of what happens to a Spider-Man who's had to fight for survival with no safety net and no way home. If the MCU wants a visual shorthand for how much danger Peter is walking into, dropping in a version of him who's already lived through it is about as efficient as storytelling gets. Which is exactly why that fan theory about Maguire or Garfield showing up again isn't as far-fetched as it sounds. If Doomsday and Secret Wars really are building toward a full multiversal collapse, a story explicitly about salvaging pieces of dead universes is the single most natural place for other Spider-Men to resurface. Garfield said publicly he doesn't know anything about it, but that's exactly the kind of answer you'd expect whether it's true or not. So put the pieces next to each other. Doom is confirmed. Jean Grey is confirmed for the same film. Brand New Day just spent 2 hours establishing her as Peter's one genuine connection left in this world. And the movie ends with Spider-Man's location literally being tracked into deep space with zero context given immediately before the film, where reality itself starts breaking apart. That's not Marvel teasing a sequel, that's Marvel showing you the first thread of a story about the end of the universe as we know it. And Spider-Man, the most street-level grounded hero in their entire lineup, has just been quietly pulled into it. Of course, this is a movie adaptation, and Marvel Studios has never translated a comic event beat for beat. The 2015 Secret Wars is dense, philosophical, and spends a lot of its runtime on ideas that don't translate easily to a 2-hour blockbuster. Doom's psychology as a false god, the political structure of Battleworld's different baronies, the slow reveal of what actually happened to trigger the collapse. Expect the broad strokes to survive, the multiverse dying, Doom rebuilding it, alternate versions of heroes colliding, and expect a lot of the specifics to get simplified or changed outright. But the bones are there, and that final shot of Brand New Day isn't a throwaway. It's Marvel telling you, without saying a single word, that the next time we see Spider-Man, he might not be fighting street-level crime in Queens anymore. He might be fighting for the right of his entire universe to exist at all. There's also a version of this where Marvel undersells it entirely, and that's worth considering too. Not every post-credits scene pays off the way fans build it up to. It's possible this is a smaller, more contained Spider-Man detour inside a much bigger Doomsday and Secret Wars story, with Peter getting a handful of scenes rather than a full arc. Marvel has trimmed down comic scale events before to keep individual character stories intact, but even in that smaller version, the fact that they chose deep space, not a city, not even Earth, as the very last image of this movie tells you they want the anticipation started now, months before Doomsday even releases. If that's where this is headed, Brand New Day wasn't just a Spider-Man movie about growing up. It was the last quiet moment before everything gets a lot bigger.